Sit back, enjoy.
Hello, what's up? My name's Julie. If you didn't know that before, now you know. My name's Julie. I don't like telling people my name. I feel awkward when I introduce myself to people, so that's my name. Today, I want to talk about the world of young Sheldon and the Big Bang Theory, which is a pretty big one right now. It's something that definitely sucked me in that I did not expect it to be interested in. And if I'm being honest with you, the light bulb moment for this video was created because I was scrolling on TikTok, and you know those things where it's almost like a stitch and half of the screen is a movie clip or a TV show and the other half is someone playing Subway Surfers or a soap cutting video. Your brain is just focusing on both things and you want to stop watching and you can't. 29 parts later, you look up and you're like, wow, I just watched this whole movie. That's exactly what made me want to make this video and have the idea. I basically started seeing clips of young Sheldon pop up about a month and a half ago. So I started watching Young Sheldon online, season 1 to the latest episode. And after I watched Young Sheldon, I watched The Big Bang Theory. It's good to mention that The Big Bang Theory did come out first. Young Sheldon is supposed to be a spin-off of The Big Bang, which I think it did a good job being more of an origin story rather than a spin-off because I dislike spin-offs, which is also funny because in season 1 or 2 of The Big Bang, they're all sitting on the couch of Leonard and Sheldon's apartment talking about a spin-off of I don't know what movie or what's going on, but they say they hate spin-offs, so creator points for that. But Young Sheldon started in 2017. Big Bang was started in 2007, which is 10 years before that. I did grow up in a time period where The Big Bang Theory was on air, and I heard people talk about it, but I never watched it. No one in my family really watched it, so this was my first time giving it like an honest watch and my own adult opinion. Yeah. Let's start with some fun facts that I found out when I was researching these shows and watching them. Actually, there's like 2 of them that I really actually want to share. The first one is the actress that plays Mary in Young Sheldon is the biological daughter of the actress that plays older Mary in The Big Bang Theory. Which blew my mind because I really thought that the casting for younger Mary was on point. And when I found out they were related, I was like, that probably makes sense. The second one is the theme song to Young Sheldon, Mighty Little Man, is sang by Steve Burns, the actor that played Steve in Blue's Clues. I was like vibing to the song every time I watched it. I was like, ooh, yeah, I was like, okay, I like this. This theme song is good. It doesn't get stuck in my head and annoy me as much as the Big Bang Theory theme song. It kind of is more of a jazzy little tune. Look up who it's by. Come to find out. Steve Burns, Blue's Clues. He's stayed in our lives forever, guys. Let's get into talking about the shows. First, I want to talk about Young Sheldon, just because that's the first show that I watched. And to be honest, I, before this, didn't have a good opinion on the Big Bang Theory, but I did grow up when it was on air. I saw an episode or 2, so it gave me a little bit of a taste of, and factual knowing that Young Sheldon was a spin-off. And I'm never really sure how to feel about spin-offs because I'm scared they're going to try and be too hard, to be like the original or to try to copy the humor from the original, making it seem just not like its own unique entity of entertainment. I have to just say once again, shout out to the creators for not doing that. I feel like Young Sheldon was more of an origin story and helps us understand the perspective of why older Sheldon is more of like a socially stunted, awkward, not so emotionally intelligent adult. So right away we meet younger Sheldon by a narration from older Sheldon, giving us, the viewer, the mindset that we are getting told the story in the present by Sheldon Cooper. We meet pretty quickly our main characters, who are of course Sheldon, his twin sister Missy, their older brother Georgie, their parents Mary and George, and their Mima who lives across the street. And yeah, out the gate, we already know that Sheldon is a child genius. He's different. He's a prodigy. Our first episode, he is already going off to high school. I'm not sure how old he is, maybe 9. I didn't keep track of the exact ages of the kids in this. So he's going to college. He is going to be in the same grade as his older brother Georgie. Georgie's embarrassed. He doesn't want to feel stupid. He doesn't want to lose social credit. He doesn't want to get made fun of. he's a little bit worried for Sheldon. On the other hand, Missy is really glad that she doesn't have to go to school with Sheldon anymore. This is one of the first things that gave me empathy for Sheldon in a social kind of friend way, because his siblings were always embarrassed by him and when they were around their friends or in social environments like that. Making Sheldon kind of more reclusive and not really confident and not giving him as much of an opportunity, I feel like, as his siblings did to become socially like understanding of other people when they were kids. And we don't even learn, like, that's like a one negative thing we learn about Sheldon, like that, I guess it's not necessarily negative, but helps us understand why he doesn't really feel or have much social skills in The Big Bang Theory. His own family tells him that they didn't expect him to have friends or a wife or be in relationships, which I think would affect anybody, and I think that affected Sheldon more than he would like to admit, or we get to understand from The Big Bang Theory by itself. He isn't the only Cooper with something dark that happens. The whole family kind of has a dark plot and its own trauma to each of the individual characters. His siblings feel like left out and maybe they don't get enough love or as much love as Sheldon does, because he is constantly getting attention for his intelligence. His parents are always bringing him to events and focusing on things to make Sheldon happy and make sure that he's progressive and successful with his science career, because he's very ambitious in that and of course talented and different, and they know that and they don't want to hold him back from that. As much as I feel like it's awesome that George and Mary support Sheldon's science career, I feel like it's also part of the reason he comes off so selfish, because they do prioritize him so much and he doesn't really hear no a lot or see how it traumatizes his siblings. Eventually, as Sheldon gets older, his parents do start drifting apart. If it's not the fact that they're fighting about the expenses of the things that Sheldon needs for his education, it's the weird, like, flirty affairs that they both have. It's honestly disturbing, and some of it's just a really hard watch. In both of these series, like, anything sexual is low-key kind of like cringe and a hard watch. Just, yeah, there's like this scene where it hints to the affair between Sheldon's dad and their neighbor Brenda Sparks. Just look at this. Look, this is so cringe.
Well, then what if we go someplace else?
What do you have in mind?
Remember the last time we were here?
You mean the night you gave me a heart attack?
Stop it. I did not give you a heart attack.
You gave me something.
Well,
this ends up with them getting in like a huge fight, and then the pastor Rob and Brenda both question it, and they're like, what the heck?
What are you two doing out here?
Waiting on you. Where have you been?
I was at lunch.
Hey, I hear we're having a baby.
This affair is, they're hard to look past. It really does tear the family apart, and it's cool. It's not cool that it tears the family apart, because getting a home wrecked, especially when you have kids, is like not even cool when it's in a show. But as it kind of drifts the family apart and makes them start having their own individual feelings and making each of the siblings grow up more, you get to see their individual relationships and bonds with each other grow. The last big thing that I have to mention about young Sheldon before we move on to The Big Bang Theory is something that just rubs me the wrong way, or maybe it just comes off weird, because I feel like if the gender roles were reversed, that it would be a lot bigger of a deal and more of a red flag. So Sheldon's older brother Georgie lies to a woman about his age. He's 17 and she's 29. She originally lied and I think said she was like 23 and he said he's 21. So he finds out that she's 29. He still doesn't tell her that they're 17, and they do it, you know. She ends up getting pregnant, and she tells Georgie, of course, and they find out. But I just feel like if the gender roles were reversed, or if Mandy was the 17-year-old and Georgie was the 29-year-old, people would be a lot more uncomfortable with this. I feel like the fact that he's underage and it happened, and that he's a boy, it kind of like gets praised, especially back in the era, like the late 80s, early 90s, that I think that this would have taken place in. Because kind of like, it was like macho, like, yeah, I got with an older girl type thing. Anyways, so yeah, they are gonna have a baby. They get along fine. The Coopers help take care of Mandy. They get ready for the baby. This is when we learn more about Mima's character. We get close with Mima. Mandy ends up living with Mima. They have like a secret gambling room. You kind of find out that Mima's a G. Like, she is kind of the glue to the family. She's a G. Even though her grandson is a kid genius, her daughter is some crazy religious freak. She's a G, runs a secret gambling room, breaks the law, and has new boyfriends all the time. Soon we can predict that Sheldon's dad will pass away, because in The Big Bang Theory, he said his dad passes away when he's 14 after having an affair with the blonde neighbor lady, which they casted Brenda Sparks very well. Yeah, Missy's acting out and running away because of what's going on with her parents and not being appreciated because Sheldon. Georgie has the baby. He just turned 18. He's more grown up, so we focus less on him, and it's kind of getting more into the dynamic where Sheldon is starting to grow into the character that he is in The Big Bang Theory. We even see him start wearing like the double layered shirts, like for example a Flash shirt with a long sleeve t-shirt under it, or the periodic table with the long sleeve shirt under it. We start seeing him dress more like that, and the less of the button up shirt and bow tie Sheldon. And I will continue to watch this show as it airs, and until it ends. I am not interested, and that's all I could tell you about young Sheldon for now. Let's get into some of the hints to The Big Bang Theory and young Sheldon. One of the first things I noticed is in a beginning episode, I think it's even the first, where Sheldon is in the car and his mom's driving him to high school. He's freaked out because he lost his bow tie, and he's like, let's play a car game. And if you know, in one of the first episodes of The Big Bang Theory, he wants to play car games because he doesn't like to drive himself around anywhere, and the car games are a theme throughout young Sheldon and The Big Bang Theory. There is little, also tiny clues when Sheldon's first getting accepted into colleges when he's younger. He gets a letter from Princeton, the place where his future roommate and best friend Leonard goes, or even an offer letter from Caltech, which his parents tell him is too far away because they live in Texas and he's too young to attend Caltech right now, even though it's his dream school, where he ends up getting his doctorate degree and working out when he gets older. And yeah, the biggest tie to The Big Bang Theory so far that I've noticed from young Sheldon is in the last episode of season 2, where he is going to host a party type of thing where he invites people over to figure out who's gonna be the winner of the Nobel Peace Prize. Nobody shows up. It kind of shows you an emotionally vulnerable moment of young Sheldon Cooper, where he's sad he doesn't have friends, but he knows that he has a passion and one day that he wants to win the Nobel Peace Prize. We get a flash to all of his future friends and what they're doing, and some of them are listening and figuring out who also won the Nobel Peace Prize. Some of them are reading and studying in their room. Some of them are just like chilling, having fun like kids. Yeah, that's where we get the first hint of Sheldon Cooper's future goals and who he grows into in The Big Bang Theory. The last, like, just one little cute thing that I noticed too is in the last episode of season 3. If you watch The Big Bang Theory, you know about Sheldon Cooper's like YouTube like online show called Fun with Flags. In the last episode of the season 3, we have Sheldon, who he takes over his professor's office, and behind him is like kind of a hint to Fun with Flags.
Hello, I'm Sheldon Cooper, and this is why Sheldon Cooper should go to college.
Hello, I'm Dr. Sheldon Cooper, and welcome to the premiere episode of Sheldon Cooper Presents Fun with Flags.
Now that we've talked about young Sheldon enough, and we kind of got to the point where the show's taking place and airing now, we figured out some of those like little and bigger connections that I think are important. We could talk about The Big Bang itself. The first thing I want to mention, which is my biggest complaint about this show, is the laugh track. Especially the first 3 seasons, I feel like it was overused. It genuinely almost made me stop watching the show and unable to continue. I had to watch Phineas and Ferb. I literally had to take a break, watch Phineas and Ferb, and come back to it. I'm not sure if after season 3 they use it less or it just blended into the background and I was used to it. But it genuinely was confusing because I couldn't I couldn't understand if it was trying to make unfunny moments funny or just ruining comedic moments in the show. And I will give The Big Bang Theory credit. It did make me laugh and it was funny at some parts, but that laugh track was it was hard to get past at first. The Big Bang Theory, it ties itself together pretty well from beginning to end, from the point where Leonard and Penny meet and Leonard says, oh my gosh, if I marry that woman one day, we'll have kids who are like both pretty and smart, because Penny's pretty, Leonard's smart. That'll tie into the end of the show, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So we meet our main characters. We have Sheldon, Leonard, Raj, Howard, and Penny. We meet them. Later on we'll meet Bernadette and Amy, who end up dating, Bernadette ends up dating Howard, and Amy ends up dating Sheldon. They actually end up marrying them. In the beginning of The Big Bang, it seems like all the boys, not really Sheldon, are mostly focused on like relationships in that part of their life because they already graduated and they work at Caltech. Even in this show, as I said, some of it's hard to watch. The flirty and kind of like sexual moments in this show are definitely hard watches, or the way that they talk about women sometimes like hard watch. I'm not sure if it's because it's the early 2000s or because the characters are nerdy and they didn't have that kind of interaction when they were growing up. One example of this is when Sheldon and Amy are dating and they want to have coitus, as Sheldon would say, and Sheldon's not ready, but Amy is. They have this weird, like, they act it out while they're playing Dungeon, and just watch it.
I remove your armor. I erotically caress your nose.
Hey, you guys have been in there for a while. You doing okay?
We're fine, thank you.
Okay, we just want to say we feel really
Go
bad
away!
about...
Sheldon is nibbling on my 14! Yes!
The reason I've kind of fast forwarded and just talked to the point where Sheldon and Amy are in a relationship together is because that kind of happens in the middle of The Big Bang Theory. Amy is the last character we meet that has large importance and is like in the main friend group. She just brings a lot of empathy to Sheldon and helps him understand things different, and definitely helps him like awaken the fact that he has to care about other people and the world doesn't revolve around him. I don't want to say it's because she talks to him like his mom talks to him, but it's definitely because she talks to him how his mom talks to him. So yeah, that's about in the middle. Also, because up until this point, we've met the characters, we've learned about them, we've seen kind of individual things that they've done that we are proud of them for, and that they've accomplished and they've achieved in their science careers and in their individual careers in general, because I mean Penny's not a scientist. We also see like even the struggles in careers like Penny's, and yeah, so The Big Bang Theory is, we don't really have to focus much on those parts of it, like those little moments, because I feel like it's a show that is it's kind of more comforting, and you get comfort from the fact that they are friends and they have that dynamic, and they have like those human kind of like failure moments that you do as an adult where you kind of find your second family away from the ones that you grew up with. One of the most human dynamics in The Big Bang Theory, and one of the most normal, and I don't know if it's because Penny is the least nerdy and like less educated one, which is mean to say, but the most human relationship that I noticed is definitely between Penny and Leonard, even though it's on and off, and they have a moment where literally this MacBook right here, I was watching it just like this, and Leonard and Penny are about to get married, right? Leonard admits that he kissed another girl when he was away on his little science trip, and I was ready. I'm just a Leonard and Penny shipper, and it's not because I'm in a Leonard and Penny dynamic. It just makes me want to claw my eyes out, actually. But yeah, I think they just have the most human relationship and the most like strong and like very, when there's an issue, relationship that it's like solved. They have the most human issues. Bernadette and Howard, since they're the first ones to get married, you don't really see them have a lot of problems. Sure, they have a few, but it's more like a la relationship rather than Leonard and Penny, where you might see actual struggles. Yeah, so after about that middle part of the Big Bang Theory, we see Sheldon start to become more comfortable with change as he starts dating Amy, and he starts doing things outside of his comfort zone. She teaches him how to drive, although he still doesn't choose to drive. He moves away from Leonard just across the hall. Like, Penny moves in with Leonard and Sheldon's old apartments. Sheldon moves in with Amy in Penny's old apartment. And that's kind of where we see the big turning point for Sheldon, and when he gets out of his comfort zone. So yeah, now that we see Sheldon be more comfortable with change, we get to the point kind of where the storyline is more consistent, and it's stuff that we need to pay attention to, that I feel like definitely ties us to a huge part of young Sheldon and helps us understand Sheldon's character growth. You remember that episode of season 2, that last episode of season 2 that I was talking about, where he had the party that nobody showed up to, where we found out Sheldon's life goal was pretty much to win the Nobel Prize and become a successful scientist and be recognized for that? Him and Amy are about to get married. They come up with a theory or an equation, something that gets them nominated for a Nobel Prize. And eventually they do win. And Sheldon, being Sheldon, has always had a problem sharing and giving credit and just things outside of himself. We get to the point where they do win it, and he's kind of like, oh, I won it with my wife, I won it with Amy, I'm not sure how to feel about this, I always wanted to win it alone. When they're traveling to the awards themselves, which I believe are in Sweden, he finds out that Penny's pregnant, and he's kind of like, oh, don't get me sick, and he goes and he blasts Leonard and Penny's news that she is expecting to everybody, and just a few other things he says, like common Sheldon L's, where he's always like saying something and not thinking before he speaks, where he might hurt his friend's feelings. They're all about to leave because Sheldon hurt every single one of their feelings, and they decide, they're like, okay, let's stay for Amy because we love Amy. And Amy, of course, wasn't going to leave Sheldon. She was also winning too. She wanted to be there to accept her award. Amy calls out Sheldon and is like, oh, you've kind of treated us bad because she dresses up, she changes her look because she wants to look good for her big day. And that's when Sheldon is like, oh, I don't like that, I don't like that you changed. Really like hurting and triggering Amy, the person that he actually like loves and has the soft spot for. So even though up until this point he hurt all of his friends' feelings by being selfish and kind of arrogant in this specific little time period, then he hurts Amy's feelings. They all walk away, they all give him space, and Sheldon realizes what he did. And it brings him to the awards, where Sheldon has a moment where he's starting to accept the award, and we hear him give a speech where he thanks everybody and says that he is so happy that he would rather do it with Amy and his friends, and he wouldn't change a thing. Sorry, there's a baby. He's having a little emotional moment in my background right now. So yeah, he accepts the award. He says that he wouldn't change a thing. He gives each and every single one of his friends a shout out, and it ties that last episode of season 2 of Young Sheldon to this last episode of The Big Bang Theory, where he literally achieved his life goals of 1, having friends, and 2, winning the Nobel Prize. And we have the unexpected turn where he thanked all of them, and even saying like, I remember the day that we met Penny, and Leonard was so nervous. He said that one day I will have married her and we will have babies that are both cute and smart. And he says, I'm so proud of them because she's expecting, and just a very wholesome moment. He gives a shout out to his mom, his Mima, people like that. And yeah, he went from this very selfish, awkward individual in that moment to truly having the turning point of his life, where he thanked everybody and said that he wouldn't change it for the world. This makes me just completes it. It just completes it. It tied everything together so well. It's such a good ending. As much as people say that the Big Bang Theory shouldn't have ended when it did, I think right there was the perfect point, because that's everything that younger Sheldon Cooper ever talked about wanting, and everything that his family was like, oh, you're never gonna do that, you're never gonna get that. They're surprised he got married, they're surprised that he even had friends, and he went to Caltech, and he literally did every single last thing he did with the unexpected change that he learned empathy, he learned his social cues, he learned how to just give a crap about something other than science in his career. Overall combined, I would give the shows 9 out of 10. As much as The Big Bang Theory annoyed me with the laugh track, I could see myself watching it again. I could see myself putting it in the background, or maybe to fall asleep at night, maybe if I want a good laugh, because it did make me laugh at some points. I'm more likely to rewatch The Big Bang Theory than Young Sheldon, but since Young Sheldon's still on air and I'm interested, I'm gonna watch that until it stops airing, and I'm interested to see what happens, because from traumas and things that are talked about in The Big Bang Theory, like Sheldon's dad's passing, we know that that's going to happen soon, and I just want to kind of see how maybe that affects him and maybe gives us more of an understanding for older Sheldon Cooper. Now that we learned about the world of Young Sheldon and The Big Bang Theory, I did ask a question on my Instagram story, and I'm going to answer the question that goes the most with this video, which was, what is my favorite sitcom? My answer time and time again will be Malcolm in the Middle. It is indeed 100% Malcolm in the Middle. I've watched it so many times. I know almost like every single word to every single episode. Malcolm in the Middle, my favorite sitcom. The other stories were like, why is skateboarding so important to me? What makes me want to do it? And who's my favorite skater? My favorite skater is Beatrice Damone. I like skating because it's individual. Other than that, thank you for watching. Thank you for joining this. I'll be back with more videos soon. And I hope that I did a good job. All right. Well, I'll catch you around.
That's it. Bye-bye. Bazinga!